All right. Thank you so much, Eric. And just for always holding the space and grooving with it, and for like always for validating my queerness, which is important.
Easy peasy.
know? It's wonderful. It's taken many years to get here to this place of offering Dharma from just my point of view, you know. And I really am grateful for you and many others in this space for like being willing to kind of show up and to dance with this. And I mean, queerness is a dance, right? This is the last few days of a Pride month of June, but of Pride, and I find myself just reflecting on just the remembrance, the honoring of queerness as fluidity, openness, of kind of blurring the lines and entering into this really like profound being. And this kind of being that isn't police, is not limited, right? A being that is really rooted in an ethic of love, right? Um, Love and joy and pleasure, and the other four, fabulous things that I talk about in the New Saints, pleasure, opulence, abundance, beauty, right? That's queerness for me. And let's bring that into our practice. Practice is already hard, right? It's already a struggle, right? But let's invite in the beauty and the sweetness into our practice, right? We can listen to George Michael, right, before we start Medicine Buddha, right? We can listen to Denise Williams, right? And everyone else, and Big Frida. And I have a very special song to dance out to, which I just found from a very popular artist that I haven't really paid much attention to, but I really am getting into them. So we'll play that at the end. But music being such a big part of how we practice together, how we build community, right? Music takes us back. It reminds us of things, right? It's people were saying in the chat, "Oh, I remember when I was young." Yeah, that's the power of music, and so we embrace that here in this space, and we put this in the conversation with this ancient tradition of medicine Buddha, that has been passed down for many, many generations, rooted in South Asian practice cultures, particularly Tibetan culture, Indian culture. And we come to Medicine Buddha not with, well, actually, we come to any Buddha, not with all this seriousness, not with this rigidity, right? We come with like just openness and playfulness. The Buddhas like to play. I mean, what is a Buddha? Emptiness. Emptiness is play. Emptiness is movement. It's not stuck. It's changing. It's shifting, right? That's playfulness to me. Um, we bring this playfulness into our practice, right? Um, I'm no longer a monk, right? And don't get me wrong, that was lovely years of practice, and seclusion, but I am a person of the world, right? And I like to practice in relationship to the world and to everything that we have to encounter being in the world and being in cultures and societies and communities and relationships, being, subjects of governments and monarchies and so forth, right? Like I need to be in relationship to all of this. And I want to be in relationship to my pleasure, right? And my desire as well, right? I want to be in relationship to beauty, to opulence and abundance. Um, and this, yeah, it becomes eccentric, right? But like, I just really think this struggle, this work of getting free, you're going to get real eccentric, right? And that eccentricity really comes from the ways in which you more and more are no longer bound by the rules, right? We have all this, the stories and traditions of teachers who, as Trungpa would call it, crazy wisdom, but being with people who just seem super out there, right? And it's not that they're trying, it's just that like they're letting go, right? They're letting go of the rigidity. It's really the awakening of for me, queerness is like you let go of the rigidity of all of these boundaries, right? Because you begin to see and experience the nature of things, right? Which is inherently free, right? So when these boundaries or the illusion of boundaries begin to dissolve, like you begin to expand, right? You begin to be able to hold the fear or the hurt and the pain in a different way that you're not just reacting to it and shutting down, you're actually tending to it, but still you're rising and expanding and having fun and dancing, right? And you're still paying attention, right? You're still telling the truth at the same time, right? And I just feel like teachers like that, or some of the teachers that have much more deeply inspired me, as someone who can be very serious about things. I know some of you don't believe that, but I am very serious. Like, um, really just like intense about certain things, right? But yeah, I'm a llama, that's right. It's the gravitas, it's the severity, right? But there's a balance here. There's the seriousness, but there's also the play. Like, yeah, this samsara is fucking intense. I hope some of you get that. Now, like this shit is out of control. Samsara is out of control. There's no controlling samsara. So let's forget about doing that, right? But this is why I keep saying you have to start paying attention to samsara, and you're not trying to like figure samsara out. You're trying to offer samsara space. And in that space, you get released from all this habitual reactivity. And in that release from reactivity, you start entering into responsiveness. And that responsiveness opens us up to the nature of samsara, because we're no longer just reacting to everything. The reactivity creates layers of realities, right? And we're creating layers and layers of realities, but these layers of realities are just layers of suffering, right? AI is another layer of suffering, for instance, right? That we will have to get free from. I don't want to like sound like a character from like the Terminator or dare I say the Matrix, but this is kind of where we're heading, right? You know? Um, but again, like samsara, we hold like the arising of AI, like we remember our agency, right? We remember our capacity to think and to be in relationship with one another, right? To be in a relationship with to actual relationship, like not just like social media, parasocial relationships. I mean like one-on-one relationships where you're with people, you're feeling people, you're responding to people, right? You're processing with people, you're doing emotional labor with people. That's what we have to hold on to. If we could hold on to that, like we don't get consumed by these other layers of realities and narratives, right? To stay not just in a relationship, but as we always do in our practice, to stay with the earth. If you stay tethered with the earth will keep you in truthful relationships. It will keep you in the moment. To stay with the body, right? Even though that's very difficult, right? To stay with the body is to stay with the earth, and to stay with these arisings, right? Means that we stay in relationship to things as they are, not with things as we want them to be, you know? Um, so this is where we're at. And again, welcome to those of you who are new to the space. It's wonderful to see you. Again, continue to check in as well. I'll be doing some work around AI very soon. So I've been connecting to some scholars some contemplative practice AI scholars who I guess are trying to warn us. So I was like, sure, let me see what you're doing. So expect something in the future once I read through some literature. Um, and okay, so how are people doing? Um, and yeah, I mean, oh yeah, the moon, another fucking moon. Like, when does it end? Like, another retrograde. When is it over? Like, and so we're going to be practicing with some of this moon energy, which is happening now, um, and and see where we get to, right? We're going to call in Medicine Buddha to help us hold the energy of this moon, to channel this energy into real like healing work, right? As we often do. Every time there's like a moon, a rising, we always incorporate this into our practice. So we're going to do some of that in our practice. And yeah, we had a good full weekend. Thank you for those of you who joined us Saturday for our in-person here in Atlanta. And then everyone who's in the grief course, and the podium members, we had a little gathering as well. So it was a very full weekend. We opened to Tara again, which is, of course, obviously one of my favorite homegirls, right? And tonight we opened to Medicine Buddha. Um, yeah, so we have to kind of expect a lot of strong emotions right now, a lot of heaviness, right? I've been moving through that as well. And again, like we actually were doing this last week. Let's see if we can bring some of these strong energies into the practice, right? How can we offer these energies to the practice, right? Because a very orthodox tantric view here is that these strong emotions are just the expressions of the Buddhas, right? So my anger is just a Buddha, right? Which is to say that anger is just arising from emptiness, right? Are the things that we're struggling with, the heaviness, are experiences arising from emptiness itself, right? That can help us to feel some spaciousness in what we're experiencing, as well. Um, and what else?
Lots of reflections coming in.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I love some of these reflections, these end of Pride Month reflections, but friends, you should celebrate Pride every day, right? Not just in June. Um, so Rebecca, you say, yeah, exploring what it means as a queer person to name God as my primary partner and stay engaged with the messiness of human love, sensuality, and sexuality. That's really quite beautiful, right? To reclaim God not as the antagonist, but as the liberator. But as I've done, and I've done this work in New Saints, is that God is just the state of being, the state of liberation, which I put into conversation with Buddha nature. So when I talk about God, when I talk about loving God, which is actually what the name of the chapter is, and and the New Saints loving God, what I'm saying is that like I am surrendering, opening to emptiness as the state of freedom, right? I'm not replacing God with this narrow understanding, or with an angry energy or with the policing energy. God is love, right? And yeah, I'm not a Christian. I'm not, but I love Jesus. You know? Listen, I took my Bible courses in divinity school, right? So I can talk about the Bible, right? And also my reclamation of God is through the lens of love, liberation, justice, right? So when you take God as your partner, for me, I hear you're taking emptiness as your partner, right? And you could go further and say, yeah, but I am an expression of emptiness. I am a child of emptiness. I am a child of God. How does that liberate you to think about that? Right? How does that free us from just all this religious trauma, right? Which some of you have talked to me about. It's just like, you get a little, kind of like a little rigid when I started talking about God, but like I want you to feel how I've reimagined God for myself, and I want to offer that to you in case that helps you. You know, Buddhism is really expansive and fluid, and dare I say queer, right? But like there's an expansion here in Buddhism, right? That again, it takes us back to our most liberated expressions, which is that of emptiness, space, energy. That's what we are, and that's what God is, right? But what I had to do, starting in like my early 20s was liberate myself from, well, liberate slash heal from the trauma of religious violence, right? And I had to reclaim my right to be human, to be here, right? I had to shake loose all the ways I grew up having people project their own deep insecurities onto me and how I used to wear those as fashions, you know? And getting into my 20s and meeting the Dharma gave me the medicine to really like really to forgive this narrow understanding of God that was forced onto me, which is the same narrow understanding of God that was forced into my ancestors. Right. And even though, God and Christianity has done a lot of good, I got to a point where Christianity was no longer doing me good. Right. And I had to expand, and Dharma was how I expanded. But when I expanded, I was able to come back and reclaim, just not my identity as a Christian, but to reclaim the teachings of Jesus, right? And really focus on the love and the justice of Jesus's teachings, right? Listen, I don't know anything else about the Old Testament and anything else. I just listen, Jesus is my dude, you know? Uh, and and he was a complex, complicated person. I've learned a lot over the years from kind of the mystics who really study Jesus, who studied mythologies, and it was quite beautiful. The contemplatives, the Thomas Merton crowds and so forth, it's just like that. The contemplative Christians really helped me quite a bit to reclaim Jesus and to reclaim God, right? And to focus on the justice and the love. But anyway, I go on and on, but we have lots of practice to do. Um, yeah, so, all right. So as we enter into our practice again, um, I want us to really have this attitude that we are here, actually rather the attitude of what we're struggling with is the offering, right? What we find to be suffering is the perfect offering for the Buddhas, right? That's what the Buddhas want is the suffering, right? Um, because they don't see our suffering as suffering, they see it as energy that's misunderstood, right? And so when we come into this generosity with our suffering, so when we come to Medicine Buddha and we offer our loneliness, our trauma, our sadness, and everything. When we offer this, that like the mechanics of this is that we're learning to let go, and in learning to let go, we have a little more space that we're connecting to. So the suffering itself doesn't have to feel so intense. Right. And then as you're offering this to the Buddhas as well, like we get this vantage point around suffering that we don't get when we're so attached to it. So when we're opening and offering, we get to see and experience suffering in a very different way. And then through further tantric practices, when we're told to begin to understand that our suffering is actually the expression of the Buddhas, right? And then that opens the door back into the truth of emptiness, right? Then that's when we start real deep healing, right? That yes, I feel this, I am experiencing this, and at the same time, this is an expression of emptiness. And if it's an expression of emptiness, then there's a Buddha here, right? And these really profound ancient practices begins to transform our relationship. So let's see what we can do with this, right? In our practice. So just take a moment just to go ahead and get comfortable, whatever comfortable means for you, like anything lying down, whatever. There's a lot of queers at this space. Where did y'all come from? And what kind of sign did I put up? Let's invite all y'all here. Okay. And like last week, I think, or the week before in our practice, I want you to make your practice, mm, I guess the best word is historical, meaning in this case that I want you to remember all the folks, all the beings who didn't have a chance to be their fullest selves, especially our ancestors, right? But all the folks who didn't have a chance to find affirming, liberatory, spiritual spaces where their queerness or any aspect of their identity is more than just queerness, but any aspect of their identity. But oh well, to remember all the folks, right, who didn't have this opportunity to have spaces where they were affirmed in their spiritual practice. This is what I'm trying to say, right? And we want to invite them into the space wherever they are in existence. We only have to open our minds and just think welcome. All the beings throughout history, throughout all the realms. We invite you to be with us so that you can continue your healing, right? So that you can be a part of this community too, because there are so many unseen beings practicing with us and are always practicing with us. And we invite all of them to be with us, all the the beings who had to hide, who struggled through their lives with just deep, profound, broken hearts. Those beings who were consumed by the fear and the rage, and the beings who were lonely and unseen and disregarded. Those beings who are still just hiding out, right? Still deeply afraid and deeply ashamed to embody their truth. And to an extent, we offer permission for them to really tune in to our joy, our fluidity, our validation. And may this become medicine for them wherever they are. May our joy, our practice, our affirmation free all these beings from suffering. And more so, in our personal lives, when we are stuck in loneliness or shame and fear and other experiences, may we remember that we are not alone. And may we take on the loneliness, the shame, the fear of all beings in our practice. And as we get clear, as we find space, openness, fluidity, may this also become medicine for all beings who are suffering in the same ways. This kind of aspiration is what deepens our bodhicitta, or our awakened care. When we say we're not alone, and whatever healing work I can do, I dedicate this to the liberation of all beings. This is the awakened mind, the embodiment of love and empathy, care, compassion. You don't have to be afraid of this aspiration. And we make these vows to live our lives on behalf of all these countless beings who didn't get a chance in their last life to live open and proud. For me, this is what Pride Month is. It's the remembrance of all those who've come before me and us and what is owed. Queerness is about remembering connectedness, belonging, community, that we're here because so many beings struggled and fought before us. There are so many elders in this space who I know were on the front lines of the liberation struggle. And we honor you as well. And we honor your elders who made it possible for you to stand up and to fight. And we continue fighting till we get free. This is what we do till we all get free. So this is our opening prayer, our aspiration, and we call to the spirits who are gathering, just again to remind you that we come to be of benefit, not to harm, but to help, and that you bless this practice and that your practice is blessed in return. May we all get free as quickly as possible. And when you're ready, we connect to the seat, to the weight of your body, and the seat rising to hold you, allowing the seat to do this work for you. And all you have to do is surrender, let go, be held. This is the work of the sacred mother, the cosmic mother principle in the universe is holding, tethering, nurturing. We connect to the earth and the land that's holding all of us. We remember the history of these lands. We feel the tethering of the land and the earth as our first mother. We shift our attention above our heads to the sky, to the sacred Father, not a Father that judges or punishes or limits, not a Father that criticizes or harms, but a Father who opens, protects, expands, watches over. God is the Father and God is the Mother. And together they form a deeper truth as emptiness, space, energy, this primordial experience that transcends dualities, suffering, ego, self, this place of great bliss as is taught in the Amitabha sutras and practice. Our truest nature is bliss. And bliss is the experience of no suffering. And this is what we're trying to make our way back to. Our deepest, most profound nature is that of bliss. That is what emptiness feels like, is bliss. Not coldness, not separation, but deep connectedness. This bliss that transcends any attempt to understand it right now, but we can allow ourselves to be pointed towards this bliss in our practice. I mean, can you dig it? Can you get with this? And maybe you are practicing with the breath. If you have some capacity just to notice the breath, let's do that together. We're just noticing the in breath and the out breath, breathing into our nose, releasing gently out of our mouths. And the first thought maybe we have is that I am breathing. I am breathing. Deepening the breath, inhaling more deeply, elongating the release, the exhale, feeling the seats, the energy of the earth, feeling the sky clearing and opening. These are just energies that we're noticing. Everything is just energy. Breath is just energy moving. And as we exhale, I wonder if we can notice any tightness, any rigidity, particularly in our bodies. And as we release in the exhale, can we also release some of this tension, this tightness? Can we expand a little more onto the seat? As we expand, feeling this connection, this sensation of the seat. So this is important as we are imagining this expansion. Also, make sure you stay connected to the sensation of our seats and the bodies meeting. And as our attention expands, so does our awareness. Our awareness is the knowingness that we have of many things arising at once. This expansion into awareness is our reconnection to space. And space is always present, regardless of if we're aware of that or not. Space is constant. Emptiness is constant. So as we are releasing our awareness from the specificity of mindfulness and expanding into space, we're just holding. And holding isn't as laborious as the language suggests. The holding is just a relaxing and opening of awareness. And everything has its place as our awareness unfolds. And so as awareness is expanding, we return back to the breath, letting the breath, or imagining that our breath is just arising within this boundless space. And as we free our breath to be in space, and I invite you, and this is optional practice, but I invite you to imagine that you are beginning to breathe on behalf of all the beings that you invited, and how the breath in this case represents authenticity, freedom, truthfulness, that our breath becomes a vehicle to free the breath of all these beings who have gathered with us, and how the breath begins to move things for them as we take on the labor of breathing for them. This labor begins to move their suffering through, opening, enlightening, clearing things for them that they honestly struggle to clear for themselves. And this is the blessing of physical embodiment in this realm, that we get to offer this really powerful healing work back to the spirits. And it doesn't take so much effort. It only takes intention, thoughtfulness, empathy, compassion, care. That's all it takes. Just a slight remembrance. But as we breathe, we remember that we help to take responsibility for. You may feel your breath getting a little heavier, right? That's okay. Add a little more energy, add a little more effort, breathe a little more deeply, expand a little longer, and release a little longer. And as we're breathing, I invite us to turn our attention also to the first of our mantras in our practice, the mantra of evocation, evoking the consciousness of Medicine Buddha. So the evoking of Medicine Buddha is the invitation for the specific consciousness of Medicine Buddha to arise from the emptiness that we're expanding into. Even though we may not be connecting to emptiness, we're still arising from emptiness and getting closer to the experience of emptiness. And so from this emptiness, we begin to summon, to call in the Buddhas, which is emptiness. Any Buddha is just emptiness shaped by this intention to get free. And emptiness forms into a form, a figure that invites us back into itself. That's all the Buddhas are. And so we turn our attention to this mantra, Om Minla Sangye Kino Soha. Medicine Buddha, please think of me, look upon me, hold me. Feel free to translate Kino into whatever you need. Do you need to be held? Do you need to be seen? And whatever we need is also what all these spirits and beings need around us as well. So as we're possibly praying to be seen, we're also praying for all these beings to be seen fully, directly. And so we began with chanting Om and then chanting the mantra 3 times and then chanting Om to finish after the repetition. Okay, so we'll begin. Let's inhale. Om Lazange Hino Soha. Om Lazange Hino Soha. Om Lazange Hino Soha. And like that, consciousness of Medicine Buddha begins to arise. And this arising is very abstract now, very open, and that's on purpose. But we're just continuing to open, to relax, to breathe, to ground, to open. And I continue just by offering and lighting my practice candle and offering and inviting light into our practice, the light being the representation, the symbol of our wisdom, our clarity, but also representing the energy of our minds, symbolizing the bliss. As Amitabha being the Buddha of great bliss, Amitabha is also the Buddha of great light. Light and bliss are the same in this practice. So as I light this candle, I am reminding us of our nature, that we are of light, clarity, wisdom, of bliss. And I invite you to imagine that this flame, begins to awaken at the base of your spine. And the base of our spine really is the root chakra, the chakra of home, the chakra of connection. And we begin to imagine that that flame slowly begins to form into a pearl of light. This radiant pearl of light. That it's not hot, but it's just this pearl of light. It's illusionary, right? But we imagine it awakening at the base of our spine. And as we continue to breathe and ground, I invite you to imagine that this pearl of light begins to slowly lift up through your spine. And that spine is also the central channel, which is like a superhighway of all the energy channels colliding in and around it. That's moving energy throughout our subtle energy body. But this pearl of light is moving up this channel, which is in or aligned with our spine. Until it reaches the top of our head. And once it gets to the top of your head, I want you to imagine that it actually begins to descend once more down into your heart chakra. So this pearl of light begins to rest right in your heart center. And when you're ready, I invite you to imagine that this pearl of light begins to Leave your heart center floating out into the space in front of you. Maybe 5 or 6 feet in front of you, maybe less. We turn our attention back to all the beings who have gathered with us. And we reflect on their desire to be free, which is our exact desire as well, is to get free from the suffering, to get free from the trauma, from the religious harm, from the violence, from the insecurity, from the rage, from the grief, to get free and to remember what we are. Feeling that deep desire and imagining that this desire, the intensity of the desire from all of these beings, including ourselves, begins to shape and transform this pearl of light into an expression of Medicine Buddha, arising, forming right in front of us. And Medicine Buddha can take on the form, any form, but knowing that this is the expression of Medicine Buddha, no matter what this form looks like. It can be the traditional iconography of Medicine Buddha, a symbol, a feeling, anything. And as Medicine Buddha takes form, in whatever form Medicine Buddha takes, Medicine Buddha begins to radiate this brilliant white light into the space around us, beginning to hold us in this light and beginning to hold all the beings around us in this light. This light is the expression of deep care, love, healing. That as Medicine Buddha illuminates, we all are being freed. We're all being lifted. We're all being shown glimpses of our most radiant, awakened nature. The radiance of Medicine Buddha is healing us, getting us free. And our only work now is to be held by this light, to offer whatever we are struggling with in our practice, in our lives, to offer this energy to the light, the radiance of Medicine Buddha, to be freed. And may we be generous in our offering to Medicine Buddha. And so we turn our attention to Medicine Buddha's main mantra. Teyata baconze maha baconze rasa sumongate soha. Like this, I pray for the end of pain and suffering and the root of pain and suffering. And I release the energy of this prayer out to all the world so that we all may be liberated. And as we chant, just ground yourself in the meaning of this prayer, that the power, the energy of this prayer, this chant, is freeing countless beings. And may this be so. So, to turn our attention to the mantra you can chant or just listen. It still has power either way. But just be present, be held, be open. Stay here. So we begin. O 태양 자음 백은세 백은세 마 백은세 라즈수문가 제소하 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 태양 자음 백은세 백은세 마 백은세 Just turning my attention to the prayer request again. We call all of our benefactors into the space. Once again, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yidams, Dharma protectors, all beings of light, to all benevolent ancestors, and to every being across existence who is here to help and to help to liberate all beings from suffering. We call to you and we ask you to hold the offering of these prayers on behalf of our community, and at the same time, please show us and guide us in what we need to be doing to bring about the fruition of these prayers as well. And we begin with continued prayers of healing for friend Garrett, and who is still in hospital in stable condition after a bad car accident. Prayers for finding a rehab facility he can transfer to that works with his insurance. Prayers for safe travels across the country. Prayers for my heart to remain open to the season of change, transition, and expansion. Prayers for B, his family, and the families of his victims. Lots of shock, grief, sadness, and confusion. Prayers for safety and comfort for my family. Prayers for Grace, hoping she finds a reason to stay with us. Prayers for Silk, who is on her journey tomorrow. Prayers for T on his rocky path to liberation. Prayers for my family as we mourn and try and hold on to each other. Prayers for the family and all beings existing here, and prayers for the earth that we find our way to a path to freedom. Prayers for my capacity to stay grounded in love and find a way to right action. Prayers for Marjan Satripi and David Hockney T and Cleo in the Bardo. Prayers for G to have what he needs to get free. Prayers for H around deception and confusion. May all be clarified on this path. So his path is open and remains free. Prayers for N and L for support, ease, and peace. Prayers for N and for benefactors make themselves clear to her so she knows she is supporting, that she's supported in getting free. Prayers for C and M to prioritize themselves and for the support they need to get free. Prayers of deep gratitude for my benefactors for their protection, love, and care. Prayers of gratitude for Lama Rod and his team and for all they need to continue their work and work. Prayers for my mom. Prayers for Wendy, Alex, Sean, Megan, and family as they navigate Wendy's recurrence of ovarian cancer. May they be granted strength and peace for the way forward. Prayers for Gabriel. Prayers for peace and ease and safety and safe affordable housing for all. Prayers for Kevin and Selena, who each recently entered the Bardo. Prayers for their families. May they all be well supported and feel loved and cared for as they cope with unexpected loss. Prayers for M. Prayers for J and A for protection and flourishing and all they need to get free. Prayers for financial abundance and many lake and river swims. Prayers for courage and for joy for Ali as her cancer treatment continues. Prayers for the healing of my neck and all that is needed for healing to happen. Prayers for clarity of truth and grace for meeting needs collectively, healing wounds, and complete liberation. Prayers for Vivian Porter as she crosses the Bardo. May her soul release and rejoice in liberation. May her family be supported in full expression of their grief. Prayers for Ellie as she enters hospice. Prayers for safe travels for my family and for my daughter who is traveling alone. Prayers for healing physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Prayers for financial stability. Prayers for all who are suffering. Prayers for continued recovery from my codependence. Please help me find patience and maturity in caring for my aging parents. May I have the space to stay in relationship with myself while I meet them where they are. Prayers for my health and our household. Prayers that my heart, mind, and nervous system around my chronic feelings of aloneness and loneliness and that I can know my belonging. Prayers that I have connection. Prayers that my mental health improves and that I become financially stable. Prayers for JB to get free. Prayers for A to find more love and community. Prayers for Z to have protection as she travels in the months to come. For T to get probation and be able to return home. Prayers for my heart and mental health. Prayers for A's recovery from back surgery. Prayers of gratitude for joyful intimacy. Prayers for healing the chronic pain and tension in my shoulders, neck, and head. Prayers for the relief of all these stress and burdens. May he realize the abundant help available around him and within him. And prayers for M to have the courage and confidence to share the medicine. Prayers for discernment and wisdom in all areas of my life. Prayers that I may keep my heart open and continue to face my fear of embracing my full, queer, liberated self. Prayers for knowing how to let go of what no longer serves me to make room for what now does. Prayers for my mom to be at ease. Prayers for peace and ease in this little building. Prayers for all those who are missing someone this holiday. Prayers for N, R, D, A, and C to be healthy, safe, well, peaceful, and free. Prayers for my partner J as he navigates depression and burnout, that he finds the nourishment that he needs and gets to have a happy summer. Prayers for all those healing childhood sexual abuse. May we find freedom and wholeness and pleasure. Prayers for Judith, Melissa, Andy, Trevor, Kathy, Sharon, and myself, Susan. Prayer for the strength and courage to believe in myself and the new path that the universe has sent me on, not to panic and lose hope when things don't work out the way that I want them to, but to trust the process and my practice and believe that what is meant for me is there waiting for me, not to let fear take over. Prayers for the people of Venezuela. Prayers for my newborn great-nephew Malcolm and all the newborns being born into samsara. Prayers for my son who is mentally ill and self-isolated. Prayers for everyone in Venezuela. Prayers for the infants, the toddlers, and for the caregivers. Continued prayers for Bob Thurman, for Jim Balby, and may they find quick passage to the other shore. And prayers for all those who love them during this time of transition. For Emmy Kayama, who taught me the meaning of social justice, both literally and emotionally. May she travel safely where she wants to go or wherever she wants to be. And for Jennifer Lanier, a kind heart and a great actor as she travels to her next realm. Prayers for liberation from addictive, compulsive cycles and behaviors and taking on my mother's patterns, suffering, and stories as my own. Prayers that my OCD therapy and treatment succeeds in freeing me from the pain of these obsessions and compulsions as soon as possible. And prayers that the same take place for anyone else who is suffering from OCD. Prayers for Jamie and a steady recovery from surgery. Prayers for my son-in-law Andy as he travels from Maine to Wisconsin for the funeral of his uncle and connecting with his sister-in-law who has a breast cancer recurrence. May he travel there and back safely, and he and all his family feel held in love. Prayers for Joyce, whose car totaled by a hit-and-run driver. Prayers for Nicole and daughter Amelie and their family as A navigates treatment for brain cancer. Prayers for myself to feel connected to this and my other practices and the world around me. Period. Full stop. I know it's true. For some reason today it feels out of reach. Look over look over my mother. Look over my mother. Please look over my mother. Keep her safe during this heat wave, and all the elders within the Sangha and elsewhere. Heal her body and mind of present afflictions. May I suffer less, and therefore cause her and others around me to suffer less. May I embrace the light and love of this practice. Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May we all be free. Prayers to remove the barriers to support my mother, who is facing, my mother is facing as she navigates being the caregiver of my dad who has Alzheimer's, and may she open to the support of her friends. Prayers that my allegiance to the creative spirit can provide me materially and financially. Prayers for all people experiencing hunger and poverty and desperation. May they be fully fed and resourced as soon as possible. May I open fully to feel the support and affection of the earth. Prayers for the healing of sick bodies. May compassion and beauty surround every person in need. Prayers for my needs and my sister's mental well-being. I continue to pray for the continued healing of Sanya, for the peaceful transition back to the ancestors, for my Aunt Jelaine, and I continue to pray for the complete abolition, disruption of all systems of harm and violence that prevent all of us from experiencing freedom, from experiencing and having access to the resources that we need. May we all get free as quickly as possible. May we remember our innate awakened nature. May we reclaim our right to a liberatory God. May we remember our divinity and our liberation, our Buddha nature as quickly as possible. May all of this be so. And so we offer these prayers to all of our benefactors. Again, please take these prayers and bring them to fruition, and also show us how to continue to bring these prayers to fruition as well. Please offer us all the resources that we need to get ourselves, our beloveds, our communities free. And we offer these prayers to the benefactors. We return back to our practice just for a couple of minutes. And we return back to our mantra. And just again, sitting and being held by the blessing of Medicine Buddha, that we are being healed as well as all those beings around us are receiving the same benefits. May it be so. And we begin again. Ot eanda beganze beganze ma beganze razumunga soha te anda beganze beganze ma beganze razumunga soha te anda beganze beganze ma beganze 수문가래소와 대한다 온배근세 배근세 마배근세 라스 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 수문가래소와 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라즈무가레소하 대한다운 백은세 백은세 마백은세 라즈무가레소하. And so we take a deep, full breath into the nose, just releasing out of the mouth as we release, returning back to the seat, to the weight of our bodies, to the earth, the land. And we return our attention back to the medicine Buddha in front of us. And we thank this medicine Buddha. We thank them for their kindness, their love, their care. We imagine that medicine Buddha accepts this gratitude and is very pleased. And in that pleasedness, they begin to dissolve into this healing white light that they've been emanating. And this healing white light just in an instant disperses into the space around us and through us and into the experiences, the energies of all the beings around us, offering this final healing, this final blessing. And this is also the acknowledgement that the healing and the nurturing of medicine Buddha is always with us. We turn our attention to all the spirits, the beings that have gathered with us, and we invite them to return back to their places, taking the blessing of this practice of medicine Buddha and taking the blessing of this community with them back to their places where they continue their healing and their liberation work. And goodbye. And again, we turn our attention back to the seat, to our bodies, to the earth, to the sky above us. And when we feel we have completely arrived, we offer some movement back to our bodies, maybe a few deep cleansing breaths as well. And then when we're ready, we turn our attention to Shanti Deva's prayer in the chat box, which we will recite 3 times. We begin. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for all those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to all those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. All right. Thank you all so much for your practice.